Today we're going to work on having our bat shoot things at the hippopotamus. I've already got my adventure tutorial part 6 started here. I've got my player and my hippopotamus. The hippopotamus hurts my player. It makes a sound. And all I can do is avoid him, and the game ends if I get hit 5 times and run out of hearts. Okay, so now we need to change that so that we can actually shoot at our hippopotamus. So I'm going to go choose a sprite to be my bullets or darts or whatever. And I'll note that I really wanted my sprite to be this pufferfish. But unfortunately, at a small scale, he just doesn't work very well. So we're going to go back up, and I am choosing this apple to be my sprite because it's nice and bright and has good, well-defined lines. What you decide is up to you. So first I'm going to do is that's clearly way too big of a bullet. So I am going to size it down to 25. See how that looks? Yep, I like the look of that. And leave it there for a moment. Now I'm going to go to my player because my player is what's actually going to shoot the apple. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start it one way and we'll set it up this way, but then we're going to go back and we're going to fix it. So the way I'm going to set it up is the exact same way as our down arrows and our up arrows and everything else. I'm going to come over here to, not control, events, and choose when space key is pressed. Now, I'll show you once we start playing with this why this isn't a great long-term solution, but as a short-term solution, it'll serve us just well. So when the space key is pressed, I am going to control, create a clone of the apple. Okay, so why I want to do that, I want to create a clone of the apple, is because I'm going to have multiple of them on here at the same time. So a clone is just a copy of that apple. And so every time I hit a space key, I'll get a clone, or every time the space key is hit, I'll get a clone of that apple. So we're just going to hit, no, we're not going to hit play yet because it'll happen on top of itself, which you won't be able to see. So I'm going to go over to the apple, and I'm going to, first of all, make it so that it's not visible when the game starts. So events, when flag is clicked, looks, I'm going to hide it. Now I'm going to do a series of things when I'm created as a clone. So the when created as a clone, even though it's an event, it's actually underneath control. So when I start as a clone, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move to where the player is. So that's actually under motion. I'm going to go to the player. And then I want to point in the same direction as the player so that I'm pointing and going out forward from the player. Now this says point in direction 90. I'm actually going to go down to sensing. And this is tricky here. I always have a hard time finding it because if you click over here under backdrop number of stage, you won't see right here direction of, and that's because this is our backdrop. But if I drag this out and change stage to player, then I can go to, or I can point in the direction of the player. So instead of 90 right there, I'm going to point in the direction of player. And that way I'll go in the correct direction. And now I'm going to do my final two things, which is I'm going to show so that it's actually visible. And I don't want to do that until I've gone to where I'm going to be and I'm pointing in the right direction. Then I show, and then I'm going to put a little forever loop in here. And I'm going to move 10 steps. So I'm just going to keep moving 10 steps forever. And we'll have to fix this here in a moment, and I'll show you why, but let's just play this first. So now I can fly around, and every time I hit a space button, an apple comes out. Now there's a couple of problems. If I just hold on to my space button, way too many apples come out. That's not really an interesting game, okay? And so I want to slow down the number of apples that come out. And also the other main problem is, as you can see, they're all just kind of collecting at the end of the screen. And that's going to cause some processing difficulties for us over time because it's trying to keep track of all of those sprites. So I'm going to stop this right here. The first thing I'm going to do is go over to my player. And when I say when the space key is pressed, create a clone of apple, I'm going to put a wait after that. And I'm going to wait 1 second before I go back and create another clone of that apple. So I'm going to hit play. And now I'm holding down that space bar, and you can see the apples are coming out at a much more reasonable rate for a good shooter game. I actually have to put in some attempt to hit things. Now they're still piling up along the side, and that's still not good. And you can see that because of that, I don't know if you can quite tell, but my game's acting very jerkily for that. It's stopping and starting and everything. Okay, so I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to go over to my apple. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put an if statement in this forever loop. We're going to put it after we move the apple. We're going to check and see where the apple is. And there's two different things we're going to check for. And we're going to check for them separately because we're going to do different things depending on it. So I want two if statements in there. One of the things I'm going to check for is it hitting the elephant or the hippopotamus? And if it is, we're going to do something based on that. And the other one I want to check for is if it's hitting the edge. And if it's hitting the edge, we are simply going to go to control here and delete the clone. Oh, I actually have to put in the hitting in the edge there bit. That is sensing and touching the edge. So if it's touching the edge, we're going to delete the clone. And if it's touching the hippopotamus, we're going to delete the clone. But before we delete the clone, we're going to broadcast a message. And that message is going to be, oh no, I'm sorry. We're not going to do that. We were going to broadcast a message to determine if we'd hit the hippopotamus or not. But I'm actually going to have the hippopotamus itself decide if it has been hit. And the reason we're going to do that is because if I have multiple clones of the hippopotamus and I broadcast a message saying that a hippopotamus was hit, all of the hippopotamuses will get that message rather than just the one that was hit. So all I'm going to do is delete the clone if it's touching the hippopotamus or if it's touching the edge. And that will end our forever loop too, because once the clone is gone, then anything that is happening when I start as a clone will also be gone. And so we don't need to worry about cleaning up that forever loop or doing anything with that. Now I'm going to hit play, and we're just going to check and see if we are deleting our apples when they're supposed to. We don't expect anything to happen yet if it hits the hippopotamus other than for it to delete. Okay, delete on the edge. And now we lost it on the hippopotamus that time. Okay, let's try it one more time so you can see if you missed it. See, it just hit the hippopotamus and it deleted as soon as it hit the hippopotamus. Okay, now we're going to go into our hippopotamus code. I'm going to hit stop first. And I'm going to switch the hippopotamus around so that I am treating it as a clone. We're not going to need it as a clone this time, but if we were to do, for instance, an asteroid game where asteroids were coming at us, we'd want a bunch of different ones with different sizes and things like that. And I want to make sure our code is all set up for that. So I'm going to do, when the flag is clicked, I'm going to just create a clone of myself. And for all of these other when flags are clicked, I'm going to get rid of those and instead turn those into when I start as a clone. Now you're going to see, we're going to hit play, and this changes only one thing because I forgot to hide our original hippopotamus. So all it does is it leaves that original sitting there doing nothing, and this is the clone that's moving around. The clone still hurts me. If I run into the original, it'll also hurt me, but it won't do that when we come back here and we hide the original hippopotamus. So looks, I'm going to immediately hide the original, and then when I start as a clone, I'm going to show myself before going through all of the costumes. Okay, so now I'm going to do one more forever loop, control, and this is going to be sensing to see if I've been hit by an apple. So when I start as a clone, remember we're no longer going to do anything with this flag start. When I start as a clone, I'm going to put in a forever loop, so that is under control. Oh, actually, I don't want a forever loop. I apologize. I want a repeat loop because this is where I'm going to keep track of how many hits I've gotten. So I'm going to repeat twice right now. And then I'm going to wait until I sense that I am touching an apple. Now this could be any number of my clone apples that I'm touching. It doesn't matter because I'm not going to interact with the apples. I'm going to directly interact with the hippopotamus. So wait until I'm touching an apple, and then I'll repeat. And then once I've repeated my 2 times, that means that my player's been, or my hippopotamus has been hit twice, and it is now dead. And so I'm going to wait until I repeat it 2 times, and then I'm going to delete my clone. Okay, so it'll go through, wait, am I touching an apple? Oh, I got hit by an apple. Repeat, wait until I've hit an apple. Oh, I got hit by an apple. It'll leave that repeat loop and it'll delete. And actually, so that I can see that I've gotten hit by that apple, every time I've been hit by the apple, I want to change my looks, and I want to change my size by, we'll say, -10 and see what that looks like. So I get smaller. He gets smaller every time he gets hit by an apple. That way you know, if you have a lot of clones, which ones you've hit and which ones are still waiting to be hit. So we're going to hit play, and I know there are going to be a couple of problems with that, and you'll see them here when we go hit play. So I got to hit some apples, hit the space bar. Oh, he got smaller. Oh, he got hurt. And actually that time I didn't see the problem with it, so maybe we solved it. What I expected to happen was that he would keep getting hit by the apple. Trying to hit him again. He's fast and he's smaller now. It doesn't help. I'm gonna die before I hit him again. Ah! I did! Let's try that one more time. Okay, now we're seeing our problem. Okay, so I'm hitting the hippopotamus with my apple, but as you can see, it wasn't actually changing in size, and that's because we created a bit of a race condition. So over here with the apple, as soon as it's touching the hippo, I delete it, which means if it reads this command before it reads the command that says wait until I'm touching the apple and change my size, then the hippopotamus never actually senses the moment when the apple hits it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in just a little tiny pause with a control. We're just going to wait, not a second, just 0.1, a tenth of a second, before deleting the clone. That'll give the hippopotamus a chance to sense that it got hit by the apple. So we're going to hit play again. And that time you can see what happened is I hit the hippopotamus and it immediately deleted. And that's because of another race condition. Not really a race condition. Another error we have in our code that I was aware of, which is the apple doesn't get deleted fast enough now. So we wait until he's touching the apple, then we change the size, and then it goes around again faster than the apple can disappear, and we see that we're touching the apple again. So again, what we want to do here is give the hippopotamus a chance to get away from the apple, just like we had to do for ourselves earlier. So we're going to put one more wait in here, and it's only got to be a tenth of a second. And that'll give our apple a chance to disappear before the hippopotamus gets hit by it a second time. So I'm hitting space, trying to get rid of this. I got rid of him once. Oh, and I got rid of him a second time. And so now we've destroyed our hippopotamuses. We need to have some sort of script in here that says that when all of the hippopotamuses have died, we win, or we keep cloning hippopotamuses and we have a timer to see how long we can stay alive. There's a number of ways you can play out this game. This is just one of them. Now we're going to go back to one more thing that I told you we're going to fix. If you've been playing this game yourself, you'll be noticing that it's a little bit frustrating because you can't hit space, hold down space, and throw apples while also using your arrow key at the same time. And so we're going to go back to our player, and instead of trying to detect the space key, we're actually going to put this in another forever loop that senses the space key rather than reacting when the space key is pressed. So we're going to go to events, and when the flag is clicked, we're going to put in a forever loop that's under control. And then we're going to put in an if statement that is going to be if the space key is hit, then we're going to do the stuff that we had there before. Oh, that's under sensing. If the key space is pressed. And that'll make it so that we can use our arrow keys and shoot at the same time. There is one detail that you have to be holding space down first and then use your arrow keys, and you'll keep shooting but be able to move around. That's a bit annoying, and the proper thing to do would be to put all of these pieces into this same forever loop. But Scratch isn't really powerful enough to handle that, and your game will start to get laggy and annoying. So this is one of those annoyances that it's better just to put up with. But the shooting with the space bar was what was really bothering me. So we fixed that. And even though this is not ideal, it's the best for the situation. So let's play it one more time, make sure everything's working. Now, if I hold down the space key, I can keep shooting while I'm moving around at a regular interval. But if I let up on the space key and hit it back down again, then I stop moving because it listens to the last key that was hit. Okay, so again, it's a little bit annoying, but we will live with it for the sake of Scratch's simplicities as a game engine. Okay, so have a good one. And next time, what we'll work on is either picking up hearts, or I'll work on showing you how to make this into something like an asteroids game, where you move up and down and shoot asteroids. But I think before we switch over to that, it would be really good to be able to pick up an item and gain a heart so that you can gain some health